Welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast, where you learn how to extract your business and personal deep wealth. I'm your host, Jeffrey Feldberg. This podcast is brought to you by Deep Wealth and the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience. When it comes to your business deep wealth, your exit or liquidity event is the most important financial decision of your life. But unfortunately, up to 90% of liquidity events fail. Think about all that time and your hard-earned money wasted. Of the quote-unquote successful liquidity events, most business owners leave 50% to over 100% of the deal value in the buyer's pocket and don't even know it. I should know. I said no to a seven-figure offer and yes to mastering the art and the science of a liquidity event. 2 years later, I said yes to a different buyer with a 9-figure deal. Are you thinking about an exit or liquidity event? Don't become a statistic and make the fatal mistake of believing the skills that built your business are the same ones to sell it. After all, how can you master something you've never done before? Let the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience and the 9-step roadmap of preparation help you capture the best deal instead of any deal. At the end of this episode, take a moment and hear from business owners like you who went through the Deep Wealth Experience. Renee Belz has a master's degree in nutrition, and Lauren Sambataro is a functional diagnostic practitioner, are sisters and avid educators of metabolic health optimization through diagnostic lab testing and strategic and achievable nutrition and lifestyle interventions. Lauren and Renee grew up in a health-driven family that prioritized the fundamentals of wellness and self-care. Don't worry, there were lots of mac and cheese and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Their father, Gene Sambataro, the original biohacker and pioneer of holistic dentistry, taught them the importance of individualization, curiosity, and experimentation from a very young age. Coming together as health entrepreneurs, Lauren and Renee feel a strong passion and drive to not only share each of their journeys towards wellness, but their strategy and motivation to discover our unique bodies through the world of biohacking. Their podcast, The Biohacker Babes, aims to create insight into the body's natural healing abilities, strengthen your intuition, and empower you with techniques and modalities to optimize your health and wellness. Welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast, and wow, do we have an episode of episodes lined up for you? Because at Deep Wealth, pun intended, your health is your wealth, and here at Deep Wealth, we help you extract not just your business deep wealth, but your personal deep wealth. And for all you business owners out there, let me ask you this. If you don't have your health, how good is your business? If you're thinking of a liquidity event, how are you possibly going to get that done if you're not in top form? Well, I promise you, after this episode, you're going to come out with some insights and some strategies that are just going to blow your mind. I'm going to stop right there. We have two very special guests with us, Lauren and Renee. Welcome to the podcast. And I'm going to ask both of you this question because there's always a story behind the story. So for each of you, what's your story? What got you to where you are today?
Yes, thank you so much for having us. Our story will be somewhat easy because it's aligned. We are sisters, so we grew up together in the same household with who we call the OG biohacker, our dad, who we like to lovingly say that he was doing some weird stuff in the 80s and the 90s in our living room and in our house, and we didn't know what it was. He always had like different types of tech and was always experimenting with just what we thought was weird stuff. Now we know it's biohacking. It just didn't quite have a name back then. And also we were young and curious in a different way, not curious to understand his mind and his mindset. But what we grew up to learn is that my dad was just very curious. Our dad is very curious, always N of one experimentation, always wanted to know the why, always wanted to know more and more that he could optimize his potential. And we were introduced to biohacking at a very young age. Well, we weren't aware of it at the time, but we grew up being in that environment with, I would say, like healthy solutions. When we got sick, there was always essential oils around. We had a PEMF mat. If either of us got injured, he'd be like rushing to our side with all kinds of, Renee could fill in the blank,
low level lasers or red light therapy or infrared heat mats. Yeah.
Wow. So he was really progressive. And back in the day, this is pre-internet. This is before it was fashionable.
Yeah, like how do you find this
stuff?
Right,
exactly. So you were young, you probably didn't know any different that, hey, everyone is probably like this. What's the big deal here? But looking back now, he was really way out there, and obviously a lot to be said for all the listeners out there. If you have young children, you know what? Set the example. Be the change that you want to see in your children, because look at what happened with both of you. You had a father, and your father led the way in terms of the biohacking and just never left you the same for the better in terms of what you saw and what you did.
Yeah, I'll let Renee chime in a sec, but we grew up and then we diverged. We went different paths. I moved to New York to become a dancer, went to school for that. Renee went to school for business. And we each kind of went through our own paths and our own versions of burnout, and then got back into the health field. And our dad, who I didn't mention, is a biological dentist. He was very rooted in the fundamentals of ancestral health. So we had that foundation. We came back around and interested in it in our own ways to heal ourselves, because we both hit walls and had answers that weren't helpful from doctors or no answers. And this is a great time for Renee to chime in, because she especially had that kind of block in her path.
Sure. Renee, what was going on?
Pretty much right when I graduated out of my undergrad for international business, I just hit the bed, tired. I was, doing 22 credits a semester my senior year, working a full-time job, going, type A, successful kind of person. And I graduated, and then all of a sudden I'm sleeping 13, 14 hours a night. Just couldn't get enough sleep, couldn't make up for all that lost sleep time. And to some extent, the extra sleep was helping, but it was still like, there's something missing. And so I go to my doctor, and he runs all my labs, says, "You're perfectly healthy. Just keep sleeping. You'll be fine." Okay. Keep sleeping. I'm not getting better. And that's when I ended up going to my mom and dad and saying, "I think there's something else wrong. Is it my hormones? Am I toxic? What's going on?" And they guided me down this path of looking at all these different practitioners. I was a business degree. I didn't really know much about health other than what we learned as kids. So I'm going to an acupuncturist, massage therapist, chiropractor, naturopath, herbalist, homeopath. Someone figure this out. And none of them could really put the whole puzzle piece together for me. And that's what started my journey as a biohacker. I had to ask the questions. I had to be my own health advocate. I had to connect the dots between the practitioners. And finally, I figured out I actually had mercury toxicity. I had what we call HPA axis dysfunction, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal dysfunction, where basically your brain is not communicating with your hormonal system. We'll keep it there, which was causing a lot of brain fog, extreme brain fog. I honestly, some days would question what my own name was or what my address was. Like, it just clearly something wasn't communicating up here. And here I am today, 10 years later, healthier at 36 than I was at 26, and really trying to just educate other people that there's always an answer out there. There's always some root cause that's causing all of your health issues. And what I most often find is it's not one thing. And that's why sometimes just one practitioner isn't going to answer the big question for you. You have to be your own advocate and figure that out.
Wow. Quite the story for both of you. So let me ask you this, because there's some listeners out there, perhaps they haven't heard of the term biohacker, and they're saying, biohacker, biohacking, what is that? Some kind of computer thing? Jeffrey, what's going on here? What are the three of you talking about? So for our listeners out there, what is a biohacker and what is biohacking? Why don't we get some of the fundamentals out there, and then we'll move out from there.
Yeah, this question is so fun, because I think there are many different definitions out there. And also there's just like such a wide spectrum of what biohacking is. You could argue that CRISPR and gene editing is biohacking. That's not necessarily what we are interested in. We are just interested in optimizing our human potential, optimizing our DNA. I think even Renee and I have different definitions. What I think biohacking is a disruption in our pattern. A lot of us are doing the same thing day after day and not getting a different result, even though we're hoping for one. A lot of us need a disruption in this path to try something new that we can get a better result. And that is meaningful in so many different ways, and it looks different to every single person. For me, my first real biohack was going from being a vegan back to an omnivore, or eating meat, eating more carnivorous. Most people wouldn't consider that a biohack, but for me, it was like, how am I going to feel better? I know that I am getting sick all the time. I'm getting injured. I'm fatigued. I don't feel great eating this diet. What's going to make me feel better? And I wouldn't say that is the way for everyone, but that was my disruption in the path that wasn't going so well for me, to pull me out of that, start a new path, experiment. It was my own experiment, N of one. Let me try this, and then pay attention. What happens? How do I feel? And that's like the big part of it. It's like listening to the body, because our body is very intuitive and will communicate and give us signals if we choose to listen. That's the key. A lot of us don't know how to listen, or we don't choose to listen because we don't want to hear what the body's telling us. It's just really interesting when you open up that communication, that conversation with your body, what it can tell you. That conversation is different for everyone.
Wow. And so something as simple as just changing what you eat for our listeners, yes, that can be biohacking. So you're doing something for yourself. And Renee, let's loop you in here. So Lauren was sharing what her vision of biohacking is, what that's meant for her. How about yourself? Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I think it's as simple as anything that is going to impact your biology and make a difference. So I like to look at it on a spectrum. We have something more on the end of what I would call like ancestral hacking. Because what did our ancestors do to optimize their health? And maybe they didn't even know they were doing it. It was just a natural thing. They were outside, their feet were on the earth most of the day, which now we call earthing or grounding, but our ancestors were just barefoot on the earth.
So novel.
Getting out in the sun, that's a free biohack, right? From the sunshine, we get all the benefits with our circadian rhythm, obviously vitamin D synthesis, and our ancestors, again, were outside all the time. You know, a lot of these free biohacks to, I think, using some of maybe the more expensive tech and gadgets. I'm not saying you need to have that for biohacking, but it is a part of it. And that could be something as simple as like a sleep tracker, right? We were starting to talk about sleep tracking before we hit record. I think anything that you can track, you will be able to hack much better. Say, let's take deep sleep, for example. Okay, my deep sleep is averaging an hour a night. I add in CBD oil, for example.
Okay.
And now I'm averaging 2 hours of deep sleep. Would you have known that the CBD oil made that difference if you weren't tracking it? Maybe you'd feel it. I don't know. But if the CBD oil does nothing to your sleep, maybe that's not the hack for you. Save your money. It's not cheap. Put that aside and find the right hack for you. So I think it's also that experimentation, because what's right for my body is not going to be the same for both of you and everyone else. Biohacking, there is this bio-individual component. And that's that N of one. You got to figure out what works best for you, because you could buy all the supplements and the lab tests and the gadgets and spend over $1 million, but maybe only a quarter of those are actually impacting your biology.
Fair enough. And for our listeners out there, here's what I'm going to put out there. And for the three of us on this call, let's look to dispel some myths, because I know there's some listeners that are saying, okay, Jeffrey, you're absolutely crazy. You're not a doctor. You didn't go to medical school. Who the heck do you think you are? You're going to start messing with your DNA or your health. You're going to start doing all these crazy, quacky kinds of things. Just go to your doctor. Your doctor knows best, and your doctor will give you whatever you need to be healthy. And what's the issue here? Playing with your health. There's probably some listeners who are saying this sounds so far off the fringe. Let's start to chip away at that. And here's the question for both of you. Where we sit here today and we look at the typical American, health-wise, what are both of you seeing that simply isn't working? And I'll preface that by saying this is no judgment against the medical establishment, against the doctors or anyone else. They're all doing the very best that they can. You can only work with what you've been trained to do or what you can do. What's the state of the union health-wise that you're seeing, and why is starting to take our own health into our hands more important today than it ever was before?
I see two really big problems. One is like really harshly conditioned beliefs about food and what food can or can't do for us. For example, like the cholesterol myth. I still have clients coming to me saying, my cholesterol is high. I should not eat cholesterol. Just an example. The other piece of it is, I think, mental, emotional stuff really gets in the way. And a lot of times people don't want to do the work because it's hard.
Not as easy as taking a pill.
There's no magic pill.
Right.
Yeah.
The fastest way, like if you want to get from A to B as quickly as possible, which would be the closest thing to a magic pill, is to open up a conversation with your body. Listen to it, use quantification, which is Renee talked about, get some data, learn as quickly as possible. But I think there's a fear there. And fear is real. We've all experienced it. We could all, I'm sure the three of us tell a million stories about how we've been scared of certain things, but there are ways around that. There's ways to not feel fear, or at least approach it and have it be a little less scary with biohacking. We can get into that, but I want to hear Renee's answer.
Yeah. Well, I think to answer first the question that someone is asking, or could we be doing harm by doing this biohacking? So I think if you're not a health practitioner, you're not a doctor, maybe don't coach other people. You can always share your N of one story. This is what worked for me. But there's people like Lauren and I that are coaching people through this. We're looking at your data. We're optimizing labs. I think there's that distinction. But I think we also need to bridge the gap between traditional conventional medicine and more holistic alternative biohacking. Conventional medicine, they know how to suppress certain symptoms and they can certainly, if your arm falls off in the car accident, they can put that thing back on better than anyone else in the world. Okay.
Sure.
There are places for that. I'm not saying like never go to the doctor, never go to the hospital. They also run basic labs where if something is very off the charts, they will catch it. That will be a red flag. But from there, they're not maybe going to know the best thing to do. They might say, okay, let's do this prescription medication. It's going to bring whatever marker down immediately. But then from there, let's look at the alternative stuff. What can we do to make sure that stays that way long-term? And that's where diet, sleep, stress management, exercise, all of that comes in. So I think it's bridging that gap is just essential.
Sure. And I suspect, and you can tell me one way or the other, when you start working with people, and we'll talk about that in just a moment, that people probably have forgotten what it feels like to be healthy. When they wake up tomorrow morning and, oh, okay, this is just my new normal. Yeah, I got a few aches and pains and it's not so easy to move around anymore, or I'm just not really feeling well. I'm feeling tired, but yeah, that's kind of the new normal. Getting older, that's how it's supposed to be. And we're just brainwashed with that. Why don't we start with this? When you start working with your clients and people come to you, is it the old Pareto's law at work where 80% of the symptoms that you're seeing are coming from 20% of the same issues or causes? What would be the number 1, 2, or 3 kinds of issues that you're really making a difference with and helping people with?
Big question.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, it is that the 80% is coming maybe from the 20% for the sake that when I'm starting with a client and there's a lot going on, we can get a lot of progress just by focusing on their gut health, maybe focusing on their sleep, like really focusing on the basics, getting morning sunshine within 30 minutes of waking, free, simple, can be a game changer for people. So just saying, oh, I'm tired all day, I have insomnia, get out in the sunshine, something totally easy and free, that could be a huge game changer for that person. So I do think it's like a lot of the simple basic things can make a big difference. And then once you get to 80% of your health optimization, okay, now we got to look at some nitty gritty labs. Let's look at your genetics. Where a CGM, maybe CGM should be sooner than that, but then we can get a little bit more nitty gritty. But I think the foundational stuff is so important. And most people are just inflamed. They just have much inflammation. And that's coming from all of those things that I just mentioned.
Sure. And Renee, you're talking about a CGM. So for listeners, that's a continuous glucose monitor where you wear a device. And Lauren, I know you can talk all about that with your association with Levels, which is how you and I had met the first time. And you can really monitor how your blood glucose levels react to food and stress and exercise and all those things that go along with that. And Lauren, what about from your practice? What are some of the issues? What are some of the top challenges that you see time and time again when people first start working with you?
It's really interesting because I get all kinds of types of clients, like different goals, different subsets, different educational backgrounds. And I would say through Levels with the CGM, the continuous glucose monitor, those tend to be biohackers, type A, people that already have a good amount of education and experience with their health. That's one end of the spectrum. And then you could say the complete opposite end of the spectrum where people are not even drinking a full glass of water a day. For me, I can't say it comes down to 5 basic things. It's like, oh gosh, let's lock eyes, let's connect and figure out where you are today. What is your biggest challenge? Let's first clarify your goals. I find a lot of people are not even completely clear on what their goal is. And to be honest, I do see that a lot with biohackers because they're excited by all of the opportunity in the biohacking space and they want to try all the things that sometimes it can carry you. And I've been here a million times. You get so carried away from what your mission is. Like I like to ask on my intake form, what is your dream? What's your life dream? Because then that can like pull us back and say, what's really important here?
Sure.
Is it important for you to do these 10 biohacks a day? Or is it important for you to just get like some sunshine and breathe for 10 minutes because you're telling me you're stressed and it's showing up as inflammation, oxidative stress, dysregulated glucose in your body? Like Renee said, like the ancestral hacks can be really powerful for a lot of people. But first, we just have to hone in and clarify, what do you really want to get out of this? What do you want to feel like when you wake up in the morning? That's super important.
Sure. And not to confuse simple with simplicity. My takeaway from what we're talking about so far, and we're going to start diving into some of the details here, but to be a biohacker really could be nothing more than or as easy as, hey, I'm not feeling so well in a certain area. I want to change that. Maybe it's something that my doctor can't even help me with, even if I went to the doctor and nothing's there. So let me take that into my own hands. And Lauren, in your case, I'm going to change up what I'm eating. Oh, wow, I'm feeling better. Okay, you're a biohacker by doing that. It's not complicated. It doesn't have to be geeky. And it's really saying, for me, okay, what do I need to do to feel better, to optimize my health, which is going to have me happier? We can get into life extension and all those other things. That's probably a whole other episode and all those other questions. But let's now bring it home for our listeners. They are busy, stressed, running businesses. They're the business owners. The sun, the moon, the earth, and the stars revolve around them. And their health probably isn't where it should be. And by the way, for all you listeners out there, I'm going to take an expression and twist it a little bit. Business is personal in the sense that, you know what, if you're not feeling really well on the inside, mentally or physically, how do you think that's going to show up in your business? Because business is personal. How you're feeling, what you're thinking, what's going on with your inner thoughts is a direct reflection on what's going on in your outer world. And for our listeners, for the community, the Deep Wealth community who are business owners that are busy, what could be some practical, easy takeaway strategies coming out of this episode in any which order you want to go that will have them start feeling better? Things that maybe not even aware of, that they can start doing it so easy and give it however many days or weeks. Wow, I'm definitely feeling better now. What a difference this has made.
I'm so glad we're going this direction because I think there will always be more that you can do and try, but we're always going to really emphasize the ancestral hacks. We like to say the best biohacks are free. And I think you have to just first do the free things that are basic. And I think one of the biggest needle movers is just finding a consistent sleep wake time, allowing your circadian rhythm to find some consistency and to strengthen so that your body clock essentially runs with the sun and the moon, the rising of the sun. So many hormones are dictated and triggered by that cycle, that 24-hour cycle. We see a lot of dysregulation in glucose, in inflammatory patterns, in mood, motivation, energy, just by your sleep and wake time being too variable. Say during the week, you go to bed 9 p.m., you're really good. You're like school night, going to bed. Weekend, you're like letting loose, staying out till 1, 2, whatever it is. That's way too variable. And Monday morning, it becomes very difficult. Your circadian rhythm doesn't know what hour it is. And your body clocks really rely on that consistency. Actually, probably more simple to say than to do. But if you can just start nudging those times closer together, closer and closer, like you don't have to do this tomorrow, but just start to find a little bit of congruency from weekday to weekend or just day to day. And I would say get sunshine. Get sunshine as often as you can. We spend far too much indoors, and that is in itself a biohack. It's crazy to say, but it is. It's not crazy.
From sunshine to sleep, let's go back to sleep for just a moment, because I know it's such a big thing out there. And for our listeners out there, some of them are saying, come on, sleep, what's the big deal? I'll make it up on the weekend, or I just have to work late, late nights, early mornings. But sleep, if we can just quickly do a little bit of a deep dive, we can make the whole episode about that. We can have a whole series of episodes about sleep. That's how big it is. But big picture wise, can you share with the listeners how really important sleep is, how it can make such a huge change? I know not to go down the rabbit hole of a continuous glucose monitor, simply to say that depending on how little or how much sleep you get will change how your blood glucose reacts to stress and food. So our listeners out there who think, well, sleep, what's the big deal? Well, make it up, or I'll sleep when I'm dead is a common hearing, and that's wrong. Why is sleep so important? Just let's hammer that home before we move on to the next ones.
Renee's fuming right now. She's, oh, no. Sleep queen, speak.
I mean, I used to be that person. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Obviously, that's why I crashed and burned. But actually, a lot of my busy clients, like my CEOs, I start with sleep. Like my master's is in nutrition. Don't get me wrong. Nutrition and diet are extremely important, but I start with sleep because, like you said, it does all these other things. It changes. So yeah, your blood sugar regulation will change based off of how sleep deprived you are. Sleep deprivation also dampens your immune system. So you're more likely to get sick. And then when you get sick, then you miss days of work and then you're down for the count and it's a bad vicious cycle. affects your hormones, men, especially testosterone. If you want to have more energy, better libido, put on muscle mass, you need that testosterone. That's very important coming from sleep. And ghrelin, so your hormones that control how hungry you are or how satisfied you are from your food, those get flipped when you don't sleep. All of these things don't really happen when you're not sleeping. I know if you're busy, you say, okay, I only have 6 hours a night to sleep. For whatever reason, I'll give you that. Sleep efficiency is where you need to focus. Sleep efficiency is the amount of time you are asleep versus the time you're in bed. If you're in bed 10 to 6, don't tell me you're sleeping 8 hours because I highly doubt it. You're maybe sleeping 6, maybe 7 hours. Again, go get a sleep tracker. We love the Oura Ring, the BioStrap. Just invest in some tracker so you can really hone in on the sleep efficiency. Biggest thing I see in sleep efficiency negatively is blue light. So 2 hours before bedtime, I think in the winter, maybe even earlier, start dimming the lights, get off your electronics, use the blue light blocking glasses, do everything you can to minimize that blue light, get the candles lit, your red lights out, all the amber and red light is great at night. That will help you to, as soon as you get in bed, fall asleep much faster. Your sleep latency, how quickly it takes you to fall asleep, will shorten if you avoid the blue light at night. And that's a big mover on the sleep efficiency scale. I could keep going.
Yeah. And I would say a lot of people think, oh, just one more thing on my phone, or it's just, a few minutes won't make a difference. Your pineal gland is like ready and waiting for complete darkness so it can release melatonin. All these people are trying to take melatonin because they can't naturally produce it because you looked at your phone for, even 2 minutes could block it. It really is more powerful than we like to think it is. Like, respect the darkness.
I'm hearing two things. Number one, get the proper amount of sleep. But if you had to give a ballpark in terms of number of hours of sleep, where would that be for both of you?
For total number of sleep hours?
Yes.
I still think the average is 8 hours, of what I see. I do have some people that their sleep efficiency is just on point and they can get by with 7 solid hours. But then I have some that are maybe a little bit more athletic, very high stress job, very physically demanding, whatever work or just working out, and they need maybe 9 hours. I do see that. For me, I'm still seeing 8 average, which I know is like the old school rule, 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, it really depends on your activity levels. But we've heard like Dr. Michael Bruce, who's the sleep doctor, he talks a lot about his sleep efficiency. He says he can sleep 6 hours, but his efficiency is strong, that every minute in bed counts for him, that like he can sleep in a much more compressed window. I think if your sleep efficiency isn't great yet, you're going to have to spend more time in bed. You're going to have to really work on that consistency until your body like understands what you're trying to do. And then you can start compressing.
Sure. Really what I'm hearing is give or take 8 hours, but it's really, how do you feel? So when you wake up the next morning, if you're feeling good, you had a good night's sleep, whatever that is for you, if that's 7 hours, if that's 9 hours, if that's 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever it is, go by how you're feeling. And then the second thing that came out of this is what some people call sleep hygiene. Just like you have oral hygiene, you brush your teeth and you do other kinds of things every day, the sleep hygiene, you develop a routine. And you're saying, okay, dim the lights, don't look at your phone, turn the TV off, minimize that blue light, wear the special blue blocker glasses. So the sleep hygiene really came into have you have a better sleep and get more of the REM sleep and the deep sleep and all those other things going on. Would I be on base with that in terms of that sleep hygiene protocol to be putting into place?
Yeah, there's much that we can do to build our sleep environment, like darkness, cold, reduce the blue light, Renee said. Make sure you're not like watching really stimulating TV at night, or just pay attention to how your nervous system reacts. But even more importantly, your sleep hygiene begins the moment that you wake up, which is why we mentioned sunlight earlier, because the second that you receive light into the retinas of your eyes, you start the clock running for the day. If without that light, you could actually be affecting your sleep at night because you're not getting morning light exposure.
So what's amazing with that, Lauren, is what you're saying is how you start your day with the sunlight is setting you up for either terrific sleep later on in the night or not, depending on what you're doing. Let's keep on moving forward. I mean, again, each one of these things we could just spend the entire episode on, and my wheels are turning and I want to keep on going in that direction, but I want to get as many topics out there and strategies for the listeners. And you're hearing it firsthand here, where Lauren and Renee are working with business people, CEOs, top, type A kinds of personalities, the movers, the go-getters, the people that are making it happen. So we talked about sleep. We talked about sunlight. What would be another kind of health strategy, a health hack that's going to take me to be on top of my game, top performer because I'm feeling great?
I think the good approach, nutrition is really fun because we can keep it pretty simple and basic, or we can get wild and crazy and personal with it.
Okay.
So I think for the sake of the podcast today, 2 nutrition recommendations that everyone can do. Number 1 is get rid of vegetable oils, canola oil, corn oil, safflower oil. Get those out of your diet. Depending on where you're starting, that might be more of a tough feat. You maybe are already there, but I would start in your pantry and your fridge. Start reading all the labels. Make sure none of them have those toxic oils in it. The next level would be anytime you go to the grocery store, read all the labels, make sure it's not in there. And then when you go out to eat, you can start asking at restaurants, but no one needs these in their diet.
Renee, what are you saying? That Twinkies are off the menu here? Is that what you're suggesting?
Unless they put olive oil. No, I'm just kidding.
Ooh, that might be tasty. A savory cake.
Yeah. And on the other hand, you want good oils, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, macadamia nut oil, pumpkin seed oil. There's much better options in just that one switch. I'm not saying cut a full food group out, just make that swap from the unhealthy oils to the healthy oils. We see better glucose control, less inflammation, less brain fog, weight loss. All of these things fall into place with just that somewhat simple swap.
And let me ask you this just before you go on with nutrition, because this has been mentioned a few times. And for our listeners who are hearing, okay, inflammation, what's the big deal? I'll take an Advil or a Tylenol if I have inflammation or a headache or whatever. So why is inflammation such a big deal? What's going on with inflammation?
Inflammation is the root of all chronic disease. Inflammation plus oxidative stress. So oxidation, that would be like an apple browning if you leave it out. Inflammation, anything, we could be triggered by foods in our environment. A lot of people think of inflammation when you get injured, like the area swells up. Your mitochondria do that. Your cells do that. Your organs experience inflammation from food, from the air that we breathe, the water that we drink. All those things are pretty toxic. It's crazy what water sources are putting into like tap water, but also a lot of people are drinking bottled water in plastic. You get double whammy there. Plastics, which are a major endocrine disruptor. So not only are you disrupting your hormones, but it's going to inflame you. And we know that inflammation, cytokines are like the big popular word that we think of. Cytokines are in fat. We see like the higher adipose tissue you have, the more inflammation you have. That becomes a vicious cycle. And really, it's like we could go down a very long list of all the things that are inflaming us. Highly important to pay attention to.
And so, for our listeners, the takeaway here is, Lauren, to your point earlier, when you think of oxidation as an example, or even rust, or what happens to an apple or a piece of steel when it rusts, if that's happening internally inside of our bodies, because we're having these vegetable oils, these canola oils, good old margarine, put it right up there of what not to do, because we've been brainwashed really of, hey, stay away from the olive oils and the healthy fats. And the inflammation, what you're sharing is it over time, maybe not right away, but over time can have us slow down, give us pain, have us not feeling at the top of our game. When we continue with the nutrition, again, that's such a huge topic, and you have things like organic, non-organic, but what other tips would you give on the nutrition side in terms of what to do or not to do, some easy takeaways?
I think another one, since we mentioned circadian rhythm, is just tightening your feeding windows. There's just some crazy statistics out there about the number of times that people like open their mouth and put food in their mouth during the day. And sometimes it's just mindless because we think, oh, it's just one piece of chocolate, or it's just one bite of this, or I'm drinking this beverage. And people are eating, Renee, you may know the stats. It's like
17 times a day is the average.
17 times a day. Wow.
And so I hear a lot of clients are like, oh, my feeding window is from 11. Everyone's into the intermittent fasting, 11 to 7 p.m. I'm like, okay, done eating by 7:30. I'm like, no, 2 hours later, I have a snack. And then maybe there's something before bed. That's not an intermittent fasting feeding window. Anytime that you're eating again, you're releasing insulin, that your glucose can do its job, and you're waking up the body. I think sometimes just paying attention to how many times you eat. I see with the CGM, glucose monitoring, that grazing is often not as healthy as maybe we were taught. That old myth, like 6 meals a day will keep your metabolism revved. I don't know who came up with that, but I see it on glucose. Like it just doesn't fare well because your glucose insulin never gets a chance to rest. We need rest just like we need rest from exercise. You wouldn't just exercise all day long. We also shouldn't be eating all day long. So just paying attention to the timing and maybe compressing your window a little bit, I think is a huge, huge step forward for people.
I see the full gamut. I mean, everything from OMAD, 1 meal a day, where they're fasting 23 hours and then eating 1 meal, Some people like to do 3 meals a day and then the fast 24 hours and alternate that. That's the fun thing about fasting is you can really switch it up and see what works well for you. But I think the bare minimum is that 12-hour overnight fast. That's when we give the digestive system a break. We can sleep better. From there, 16 hours, we see an increase in autophagy, which is where the body starts to do cellular cleanup. 72-hour, 3-day fast, that's where we see like an immune reset. We can keep going and see what works best for you. And women need to fast differently, right? We've been talking about this a lot lately. Depending on where you are in your life for women, you need to fast differently. If you're still a cycling woman, you need to literally cycle your fast throughout the month the way you do it versus someone that's in perimenopause or menopause can maybe fast a little bit differently.
Sure.
Versus men, you can just go for it.
Easy for you.
And maybe to give a little bit of an analogy just to help people when it comes to fasting, because it seems to be in fashion now, everyone's talking about it and why it's so important to have stop at this point in time, at least 12 hours, if not more, in terms of your next meal. So imagine we need to paint a floor that we're going to be walking on. It's a hardwood floor. We have to paint it, and we're starting to paint it, and people keep on walking on it. Now it's on their shoes, and it's all over the floor, and we have to keep on starting over again. So that would be like our body. We stop eating, and our body says, oh, okay, stopped eating. Let me start repairing. Let me start doing all these things. And then we start to eat again. Oh, more people are now walking on the floor. As opposed to, we're going to paint the floor. We're going to lock off the room. We're going to block it out. Close the doors, lock it. No one can walk in for at least 12 hours, maybe 16 hours. We're going to get a really better, different kind of paint job done on the floor than if people are just walking back and forth. That's at least my takeaway. We're giving the body a chance to do what it wants to do, because every time we begin to eat again, it stops and other processes take over. Would I be on base with that?
Great analogy. Yes. And I think I always like, Renee and I both like to think back to ancestral living. Our early humans were not eating all day long. They didn't have convenience stores. They didn't have seamless delivery. So they had to go for long stretches of time without food potentially. And then they also went through periods where they were feasting and maybe eating like a big joyous meal. If you are new to biohacking, I think if this is confusing to you or you don't know where to start, just go back in your mind and think like, how did my ancestors possibly do this?
Sure.
Foraging, resting, lots of sunshine, grounding. If we can just get back to ancestral practices, which is not always doable in our modern lifestyles, but we want elements of it as much as possible.
And I guess depending on where a listener is, maybe it's a grandparent or a great-grandparent or a great-great-grandparent. If you think back to what they did, if you can remember, they weren't eating as much. They were eating whole foods. It really wasn't organic back in the days, but they were eating whole foods. It wasn't processed. It was homemade wherever possible. They weren't going out a lot. And it was just a healthier way of living. We're doing, really well here. We covered off sleep and sunshine and nutrition. We've talked about fasting. What would be some other kinds of health strategies that someone could start doing today that's going to help them feel better tomorrow?
It'd be fun to talk about some tech biohacks. I think that gets us a little revved up. Renee and I were talking earlier for business minds, business people that are really trying to make their time efficient. And I know I've heard you say in another podcast, like business minds often put themselves second. And I think a lot of people could say that for themselves. Women do that a lot. They put themselves second because they're taking care of a family, whatever it is. I think both of us got into biohacking to get out of our own ways that we can show up and serve the world, whatever our mission, our purpose is, serve other people and not be busy trying to nitpick our health every hour of the day. So there's some biohacking tech that can make our time more efficient. And there's a term in biohacking called minimum effective dose. And there's like some fitness equipment, there's some energy healing stuff. There's all kinds of things that kind of make that process a shorter window, like a nice short hormetic dose, and then we can move on with our day. I think this fits into a busy lifestyle. One of my favorites is the ARX. It's an adaptive resistance machine, a big clunky machine. There's actually 2 models. You do all of your basic foundational movements like push, pull, bend, squat. It's pretty insane, but you can do an hour-long workout in 5 minutes.
Wow.
And only twice a week.
And only twice a week, really once a week if you maximize, because it is intense. It takes that long to recover. So it's AI technology. So it's matching your potential. And for anyone that is familiar with exercise, you are stronger eccentrically than you are concentrically. If you think of a bench press, when you push the bar away from your chest, that's concentric. When you lower it, it's eccentric. You can lower a lot more weight than you can press. So in a gym setting, that really limits you, because unless you have a buddy that's willing to pick up your bar in both directions, you're only going to be able to bench what you can concentrically. On this machine, you get to max out both directions. So you're getting a much higher potential for strength in a very short window of time. It's unbelievable. If you don't have time to go to the gym, find one of these machines, 5 minutes, you don't really sweat. It's pretty amazing.
That doesn't get any better than 5 minutes. Wow, terrific. Well, and that's one of your favorite hacks, technology-wise, from a health side. Renee, what about you? When it comes to technology, what comes to mind?
I'd have to say the brain tap. Lauren probably knew I was going to say that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The brain tap. I have used it almost every day for the last 4 years, and that is not going to change anytime soon. I'm sure people listening are very familiar with the benefits of meditation. We're hearing it all the time. Meditation's so important. Amazing health benefits across the board. But a lot of people, especially very busy, work-minded people, find it's hard to just sit down and close your eyes and shut off your thoughts. And they say, oh, I can't meditate. I can't meditate. This technology disrupts that. It's using light and sound, amazing technology created by Dr. Patrick Porter. It looks like big headphones like Lauren's wearing today, and then a big piece that comes over your eyes. Light on the eyes, light and sound in the ears. It's using binaural beats, and it is balancing the right and left hemisphere of the brain to put your body into a parasympathetic state very fast. You know, the meditation gurus out there, they can probably do this on their own in under 60 seconds. But for the average person, it's really hard to get there. You can do 10, 15, 30-minute tracks on there. I do that midday. When I'm really tired, I fall asleep, to be honest. Other times, I come out of that and I feel like I've napped. I have a full brain reset. I'm like ready to go. The rest of the day almost feels like a second day to me. I'm just like full of energy. My brain's on fire. And it's just thanks to this technology.
You know what a great example in both instances, how we can leverage technology, save some time, get the results, feel better, and help our health. And here's the last question for you, because we're starting to bump up against some time. And again, every one of these, and my next question as well, that can be not only an episode, a whole series. Let's talk about supplements, because science is now showing, and we've known this for a long time in the health community, that the food today, the food that we're eating, the soil that it's grown in, cannot give us the full nutrients that we need. So we're speaking about our grandparents or great-grandparents. The food that they were eating back in the day had so many more nutrients than what we're having today. And to have the body thrive and to prosper, we turn to supplements. And putting you both on the spot, if you can only pick a few supplements, areas where most people are deficient in, what would be a daily stack of some supplements or some vitamins that someone can take just to help them and push their health to the next level?
Ooh, rabbit hole.
We could take turns throwing one in there.
Yeah. I would say first, you should probably get some updated lab work. I think for some reason, this is not more common. Like annual, really even better, like biannual lab work from your physician. Get some basic blood markers, blood chemistry, CBC, CMP, and that can really identify some opportunities where you may be deficient. But I would say just a general stack without those labs, like a basic multi can cover just so many bases if you're unsure of where to start. I would say most people are deficient in magnesium, and that's the popular one now, but I'll add zinc onto that. I'm going to squeeze those together so I get 3 more. Renee, you want to chime in and then we can round out?
Well, I would say on the multi side of things, though, quality does matter. Don't just go get like a Centrum or Daily off of the store shelf at the local. Like you're better off not taking the junk multi. Save your money and get something nicer. Like I like, Primal multi from Designs for Health or something. Like spend a little bit more to get a good multi. Typically the ones that are in the tablets, they're going right through you. Another supplement I think almost everyone could take would be digestive enzymes, especially if you're ever eating in a more stressed out state. Hopefully you're not. Hopefully you're taking some time to sit down, close your eyes and breathe before you eat. But we're eating more cooked food. We're eating more processed food, not high quality food. We're stressed out. Digestive enzymes just aid in the digestion, as simple as that, so that you're able to digest and absorb the nutrients that you are putting into your body. You're spending all this money on this great food. You want to make sure you're actually digesting and using those nutrients.
So we're going to start wrapping things up here, and I'd like to do a thought experiment. I really have the privilege, and I do mean that, every guest that comes onto the show, and we have such amazing guests, I get to ask this question. So I'm going to put it out there and would love to hear from both of you where your thoughts are. It's going to be a quick thought experiment. Think of the movie Back to the Future. And in the movie, you have that magical DeLorean car that can take you to any point in time. It's tomorrow morning, and it's your lucky day. You look outside, there it is. The DeLorean car is not only there curbside, but the door is open, and it's waiting for you to hop on in. So you're now going to go back to any point in time in your life when you're a young child, a teenager, whatever point in time it would be, and you're going to tell your younger self some life wisdom, life lessons. Hey, do this, but don't do that. What would that sound like for each of you?
Listen to your body. Stop searching for answers on Google and magazines and trying to do what everyone else is doing. Listen to your body. We have so many answers that come from within if you're willing to listen. I know that's where we started, but it's just really powerful for me. I was seeking everywhere outside of myself, and especially in my 20s, and that led to burnout. And if I could just slow down and pay attention to the signals, I would have had much more powerful and much quicker answers.
Well, terrific advice, Lauren. Listen to your body. Doesn't get any better than that. After all, you know yourself and you're the barometer of how you feel or not. So that's some terrific wisdom to share out there.
But we don't trust that. I just want to say that one thing, like a lot of people don't trust it. Yeah. So you ask other people for their opinion. It's like, no,
yes,
you know it. Trust it.
I've got to go to my doctor to tell me how I feel.
Yeah. Right.
And Renee, how about yourself? Where are you on that?
I think I would say maybe if I could go back to when I was 13, 14 and say productivity is not a sign of you being a better person. At some point around that age, I got this idea that the busier I was, the more productive I was a better human. But now I know that I can respect my downtime and I can still show up as a great human being to my friends, my family, to my clients. The only question is, if I had known that at that age, would I have crashed and burned in my 20s and become a biohacker and learned all this? It's hard to know.
Yeah, great question. Renee, you're right with that. If there's one theme that I've seen with all of our guests, it is, Jeffrey, I don't know if I would change anything. Yeah, I did some really crazy things back in the day, but if I didn't do it, it would have changed my trajectory. I wouldn't be where I am today. And I kind of like where I am today. So maybe I would just leave it. So you give some great advice, don't confuse activity with progress on the one hand, and really be in the moment and enjoy those special times. And you also say, well, but we have to learn and fall down, pick yourself up, keep on moving forward, makes you better. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Now, in the show notes, we'll have links to both of you and to your podcast and some of the other things that we were speaking about. But if a listener wants to reach out to you, maybe become a client and have you help them work through their own health journey, where would be the best place online that they can go?
Our website, thebiohackerbabes.com, or you can email us at biohackerbabes@gmail.com. We are there. We are ready to listen and answer your questions, or on Instagram, biohacker_babes. That's probably the quickest route. And we both primarily do one-on-one coaching. I think that's probably where most of our magic is. We welcome hearing from you.
Terrific. And for listeners, we will make it so easy. It's a point and click. We'll have everything in the show notes. So just go there, and that's where you can get in touch with Lauren and Renee. As we wrap this up, a heartfelt thank you for sharing your stories and being vulnerable and transparent, and your insights, your wisdom. And as we like to say here at Deep Wealth, please stay healthy and safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Deep Wealth experience was definitely a game changer for me.
This course is one of the best investments you will ever make, because you will get an ROI of 100 times that. Anybody who doesn't go through it will lose millions.
If you don't have time for this program, you'll never have time for a successful liquidity.
It was the best value of any business course I've ever taken. The money was very well spent.
Compared to when we first began, today I feel better prepared, but in some respects, maybe less prepared, not because of the course, but because the course brought to light so many things that I thought we were on top of that we need to fix.
I 100% believe there's never a great time for a business owner to allocate extra hours into his or her week or day. So it's an investment that will yield results today. I thought I will reap the benefit of this program in 3 to 5 years down the road. But as soon as I stepped forward into the program, my mind changed immediately.
There was so much value in the experience that the time I invested paid back so much for the energy that was expended.
The Deep Wealth experience compared to other programs is the top. What we learned is very practical. sometimes you learn stuff that is great to learn, but you never use it. The stuff we learn from Deep Wealth experience, I believe is going to benefit us both.
I've done an executive MBA. I've worked for billion-dollar companies before. I've worked for smaller companies before I started my business. I've been running my business successfully now for getting close to a decade. We're on a growth trajectory. Reflecting back on the Deep Wealth, I knew less than 10% what I know now. Maybe close to 1% even.
Hands down, the best program in which I've ever participated. And we've done a lot of different things over the years. We've been in other mastermind groups, gone to many seminars, workshops, conferences, retreats, read books. This was so different. I haven't had an experience that's anything close to this in all the years that we've been at this. It's 5-star, A+.
I would highly recommend it to any super busy business owner out there. And Deep Wealth is an accurate name for it. This program leads to deeper wealth and happier wealth, not just deeper wealth. I don't think there's a dollar value that could be associated with such an experience and knowledge that could be applied today and forever.
Are you leaving millions on the table? Please visit www.deepwealth.com/success to learn more. If you're not on my email list, you'll want to be. Sign up at www.deepwealth.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, if it added value, if you walked away with some new insights and strategies, please leave a review on your favorite podcast channel. Reviews help us reach new listeners, grow the show, and continue to create content that you'll enjoy. And as we wrap up this episode, as always, please stay healthy and safe.